Welcome to tonight's Leinster Rugby Roundup show. On this month's version, we'll be looking back at the recent Pro 14 InterPro against Ulster. We'll be looking forward to the Pro 14 final, as it now will be, against Munster. We'll have a little bit of the history of the Leinster branch with Gerald WILLIAMSON. We'll also be previewing this round 4 of the upcoming Six Nations, and we'll be talking about lots of other stuff, including the new QVC deal that was announced earlier today. I think that's about it, Conor.
Yeah, this is the Leinster Laighin, part of the ThreeBOD rugby group. He's Nathan Johns, I'm Conor Broomfield, and you're very welcome to tonight's show.
Well, tonight's show is partnered with As Cute As a Button Frames, a small business fueled by high doses of enthusiasm and passion to bring a new and fresh flavour to the Irish shopping scene, with original items that you will not find on the high street. Classy, contemporary designs, tasteful use of colours, price and beautiful packaging that comes in a choice of colours, with matching gift cards, making it the perfect gift that's ready to go. There's always an occasion to buy for: wedding, anniversary gifts, engagement gifts, Father's Day gifts, Mother's Day, memorial gifts, leaving gifts, etc. First day of school, you name it. The list is endless, and it's all to be made in Kildare. Well, there we go. How's the form, Conor? How are you?
Very good, very good. Looking forward to an action-packed show tonight with so much to get through. Starting off, of course, with last Saturday's match at Ravenhill. What you make of that, Nathan? Wasn't it a cracker?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, based on what I saw on your Facebook forum, the 4 provinces, it was a match that had plenty of controversy, but of course can't say I wasn't happy with the result. But anyway, so we've got Dave Topping, I believe, to come in and chat to us to start things off about the Ulster game. He's going to be our Ulster representative. How you doing, Dave? I think you're on mute, are you?
Either that or he's very quiet, fella.
All right, Dave.
Oh, did I remute myself? Happy days. Maybe I might get this removed after I'm finished with the crack tonight. Like the scoreline said, 1938, to yourselves, but there was that much action, that much controversy, and some great open play by both sides. I think there's plenty to talk about, but I suppose you just want to get the good stuff out of the way first. Let's have a look. Looking at the cards.
Well, you mentioned the controversy. Let's get that out of the way, because as controversial as it was, I have a funny feeling we're all going to agree that should have been 2 red cards, and that both the Warwick one was fair, and that the Jimmy O'Brien one should have been a red. And I'll start off. I'll just give you my 2 cents worth, because I was watching the Premiership earlier on that afternoon, and I don't know if you saw, but a Gloucester wing by the name of Ollie Thorley got sent off for exactly the same thing, making head-to-head contact in the air, and his was nowhere near with as much force, and he's just got a 4-game. He's just got a 4-game ban. So not only did Jimmy O'Brien not get sent off, he didn't get cited. So this key thing of consistency, and if we're going to see this consistency, then Jimmy should have gone.
Oh, absolutely! I have to totally agree with you there. Definitely.
What about the Warwick? What about the Warwick one? Any complaints there from an Ulster point of view?
When I look back at it, in the end, I'm not going to complain about it. I think what you're looking at there is going to be a case of techniques are going to have to change, because obviously, and Bernard Jackman actually brought it up after the match. Obviously there's training for what they term the bumper bar, so obviously, which would naturally lead with the forearm. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Ollie Hodges, I think, really pushed Frank Murphy into the red. Now, Frank had always said, "Look, I'm looking at a yellow card here. But the persuasion of Hodges to look at it again and again, and it's like anything else. When you watch something again and again and again, the worse it gets. It's just human condition more than anything else. In the end, it's fair. Looking at the fact that Warwick has had a 2-game ban, well, that sort of shows that, as far as I'm concerned, it was rather forearm rather than the elbow. If it had been the elbow, then you'd have been looking right in the mid-range of at least a 4-game ban. So from that side of it, yes, I'll agree. It was a red card because they're cracking down big time on anything to the head, and you can't really complain about that. But especially after the O'Brien Madigan head-to-head, it really does bring that consistency into focus. And as far as the other cards go, yeah, I thought Balakoon's was harsh, possibly because of the penalty count. And how do we look at that? And Ulster had a very bad night of the races when it came to the penalty count with 17, compared to 10 for Leinster. But it's I think the one big mistake I think Murphy made was chalking off Balakoon's second try.
Okay.
I don't think that was crossing. I don't think that was crossing by McCluskey in the build up to that. And I think Balakoon is very unlucky to have that one chalked off. What about yourself, guys?
Conor, what about that try? Try, yes or no?
Honestly, Dave, I don't think he can give that. I've looked back at it several times. McCluskey is standing straight in front of the ball carrier, straight in front of Balakoon when he passes, and unfortunately for him, I know Ruddock elects to tackle him rather than going for the ball carrier, but he's still blocking his way, and the point is valid that Ruddock would have had a clear line to Balakoon without McCluskey's intervention there, and I think that's the key point.
Yeah.
So for me now. There's also the broader point there. Are we going to examine every one of these technical offences, and then you can find a reason to chalk off any try? And there's probably an issue with consistency there as well. But so I would say that wasn't a try, to be perfectly honest. As regards to red cards, I thought Jimmy O'Brien's was a straight red. I thought I just shouted out at the TV at the time. I was like, he's gone. And I was shocked when Frank started talking about mitigation. I go back briefly to Xander Ferguson's red card against Wales, and the decision there was a red, and there wasn't enough mitigation. There has to be a certain amount of a lot of mitigation to reduce a red card to a yellow in a head-on-head collision. That's the directive now, and I don't think they're there for Jimmy O'Brien's. I feel a bit for Warwick, because looking at that, I've looked at that a few times as well, and Warwick is just getting tackled as his arm goes up as well. If you look back at maybe that interfered with his actions. When you're getting tackled, and you automatically change body position. So, but it's just something, as you alluded to there, David. Players are going to have to modify their actions, and we're in a transition at the moment. We saw it a few years ago when World Rugby brought in the new directives on tackling players in the air. For a while there was a few red cards, and after players recondition themselves, you just don't see any tackles in the air now, and that's what's going to happen with relations.
Well, funny enough, I've seen Damien's point there about the prop cleaning out, basically jumping on top of Cooney, behind the rope, not even called as a penalty. I'm not going to hold back on it. Basically, I thought Frank Murphy and Ollie Hodges were absolutely terrible Hodges was missing, all sides. One's coming in from the side, left, right, and centre all evening. Murphy should have been policing that a lot better, as far as I'm concerned. Well, put it this way, I will send a pair of these to himself. And the bitter irony of this these are called Frank. Certainly, Frank. We said those could be on the way. Just use them in future.
So
extra thick lenses, David.
So I think Frank does sometimes come in for a bit of harsh stick because he's become a professional referee at the same time that these directives have come in, and people talk about how he gives away so many cards. So I think you got to bear that into it. I think the TMO, at least they're blue, nice. And the TMO, I think you were right. So Ollie Hodges came in for the Warwick one, but not for the Jimmy one, which I think from an Ulster point of view would be frustrating. But anyway, I mean, look, Conor made a really good point there. With every single try or decision, if you wanted to, you could break it down and find something in the build-up. Just the cards are always going to get talked about. But in terms of the actual game itself, Dave, I mean, there's definitely some positives in that first 40. Ulster keeping the ball alive as they do so well. A couple of nice offloads. I got them into the 22 for the Balakoon try.
Well, the thing that frustrates me about Ulster's play was that when you were down to 14 for the 10 minutes, all we could get out of it was a solitary try. And even then, that was a Marcel Coetzee special. Leinster's defence all evening, was absolutely immense. Certainly, I can't remember how many times Ulster got held up, with certain tries, and they should have been certain scores. But Leinster's defence was absolutely massive. Our open play was fantastic in that first 40, and certainly the interplay between McCluskey, Warwick, Ringrose, Warwick and Balakoon. Balakoon's try was an absolute peach of a thing. He's very strong to get through that, and considering he's coming back from such a serious injury. I would give him more time, and certainly I would like to think that Balakoon could get a shot in green maybe next year. But for me now, I think, we will regroup from it. There is a lot of positive players coming out of that, and we're getting a lot of good progression. And certainly when we play the Dragons now, on the weekend, it'll be a chance for us to progress that forward. But in its entirety, once we drop the man down, pretty much the writing's on the wall. We know how strong Leinster are, and they took absolutely no prisoners, even right to the last minutes. It was just see a blue, and you just knew once the tries started coming in, we just knew the writing's on the wall, and obviously then that means a very nice Pro 14 final for you guys against Munster.
Yeah, David, where do you see the issues for Ulster taking that next step to be able to beat the likes of Leinster? We see a lot of progress there, and a lot of young players coming through, and most of them are in the backs, and you're developing the skills and the style of play. Is there an issue there maybe with your front five in the pack? Is that where maybe an area of improvement?
Certainly, I think once we see Marcel leaving us at the end of the season, obviously to go to the Bulls, certainly for me, I think we have our back row sorted out. It's more sort of 4 or 5 is pretty well sorted out. It's going to be bringing up the young ones from academy into the front row, into the second row, and just thinking, well, actually, we do have talent. We have lots of good talent there. It's now about giving them game time. It's giving them time to progress on that. We have the ability, and certainly from our academy side, we do have a lot of good ability. My actual concern is not so much in terms of front five. My concern about next year is actually we're going to have a dearth of backs, and we're going to have that same problem where we're going to have to let players go to actually get game time, because we'll have too many coming through from the academy trying to break in the first team, and we'll end up having to send a few to Conor, send a few to Munster, to yourselves, to try and balance things out, give them game time, and that's what I see happen over the next year or two. But in terms of progression, I would like to think be working the front row. O'Sullivan had a torrid time, and I think that's where there'll be some concentration, but again, time and a bit more strength will probably bring that up. But it's like anything else; it will just take some time to bring them up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, from a Leinster point of view, you mentioned O'Sullivan there. There was a hit, and I think it was 15 minutes in, where Van der Fleer just sent him back. He got sent him airborne while O'Sullivan was trying to make a tackle. And after that, O'Sullivan didn't look right. I think he gave up two scrum penalties, and then McFarland hooked him off. But then, of course, he had to come back on. I initially thought that hit with Van der Fleer injured him, but obviously not. He was able to come back on. But it just seemed something happened there. I don't know if it was physical or psychological, but I get that. Just Conor, that's just the wider point of that game was Leinster's physicality. I mean, Josh Van der Fleer, we forget, for the size that he is, he looked like a man on a mission. I was absolutely gutted to see him go off with the HIA before half time, because ever since he's lost that Irish shirt playing against Glasgow, and then this one, he's just looked unbelievable.
His energy is incredible. You look at his stats at the end of a match. The hits he's made, and his carrying, and his the amount of ground he covers during the 80 minutes. And Scott Penny is another one in the same mold. There's the man now. 2 Man of the Match awards in a row. Player of the Month for Leinster. In the Glasgow match, he had 23 carries and 20 tackles. He's only the 5th player in Pro 12-14 history to score over 20 in both end categories in one match. It's quite incredible, really. A young man with a big future. He's still only 21. Maybe slightly on the small side for a modern day back row player, but he's hard as nails and fast and strong and powerful.
I'm a massive Scott Penny fan, and I tell you what impresses me the most about him is, you mentioned his size then, that's always been a concern, but he's put on a bit of bulk over the last year or so, and he
certainly has.
He still wins a lot of collisions and frees his hands, and he didn't really do it the other night, but against Dragons, some of his offloading play was absolutely phenomenal. And I think, how many times do we say the O word at the moment during the Six Nations offloading, and you've got this lad who is playing against guys in the back row who are much bigger than him, and he's still using his footwork to win collisions and free the arms. But anyway, just quickly, the last question on the game from Saturday, Dave. I think we got a question in there about Ulster's style of play in the second half. Playing with a man down, were you happy with how they went about things, or would you have liked to have seen something slightly different?
I think it's one of those ones where I would say I was fairly happy. I think, we could have kept it a bit more open, to be fair. But then it's like anything else. It's Leinster play an attritional game, and in the end, you can see that, the players were gassed. Our guys were gassed. The amount of defending and we were having to do. Well, put it this way. I took a look at some of the stats on this. Ulster had 236 tackles in the game. We only missed 16 of them. Now, that's an incredible work rate, considering that we were down 1 man for the fair majority of the game. Now, considering we only missed 16 tackles, the problem is most of those missed tackles led to tries to Leinster. So from a defensive point of view, we put in a hell of a shift defensively. Yes, it may not have been pretty rugby, but I think if we had tried to exploit a few more, there were still gaps in the defence, in the Leinster defence on the back line. And I actually thought if Conor Madigan would have tried to sort of ping a few in behind, there was space to exploit, but they just didn't take those chances when they should have. And, in the end, it did cost us, not so much in terms of, once we lost Warwick, it was more in case of, well, we had chances to add points on. We didn't take those, and in the end, like anything else, Leinster will kill you for it.
Right. Anything else you want to ask about this one, Conor?
Just something came up there about what would your guys' feelings be on this new trial of allowing a team who has got a red card replace that player after 20 minutes? As Joe Lyons had the question there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there merit in having a 20-minute card for new players? For new rules, players need to adapt, and some of these reds are borderline.
I think it depends on the red, doesn't it? It depends on how bad the red is.
Depends on the nature of the red card, yes. And we can't really have a situation either where in the key matches certain really important players are targeted early in the game, and teams are willing to take that hit for 20 minutes in order to get player X off the pitch. Say someone really important.
I think there is actually merit, and even yes, for some red card offences, absolutely there should be a block on it. But even then, I still think actually it could end up being another tactical edge for somebody else to have a look at, and certainly if it adds a layer of intrigue to a game. Even for one of our InterPros, as if they weren't technically aware enough as they were, I think it's a great idea. I think there should be at least a trial of it, but whether or not it passes muster with the rest of the Pro 14, that could be another case entirely. But we'll wait and see how this turns out and see if it leads to improved play and even improved balance of play. And then we'll see if we need to try it out here.
Yeah, just for reference, in case anyone doesn't know what it is, it's New Zealand, or is it Australia? Which one of the two is trialing it? I think it's New Zealand.
I believe it's Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Yeah, so it's New Zealand. Rugby is red card, 20 minutes. You get to bring on another player. So it's 15 against 15 after 20 minutes, which is an interesting one. Right, I think that's probably all we've got for the Ulster chat. So cheers. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Thank you so much, David.
Cheers.
Always a pleasure. Bye-bye. And that was an interesting discussion with David Topping. Our next guest tonight, for any of you that follows the show regularly, Gerald WILLIAMSON, rugby historian and past president of Navan Rugby Club. Delighted to have Gerald back on the show with us tonight. How are you, Gerald?
Thank you very much, Conor. Very well, thank you.
That's good. Good. I believe you've been talking about your own club tonight, Gerald, Navan Rugby Club, yeah?
Yeah. I hope to talk about. Anyway, I started a little bit of a history on rugby clubs when we started up the AIL rugby and club rugby on Facebook in September 2019. I felt that the rugby clubs were neglected on platforms or forum groups such as this, and we decided to kick off and have a go at putting a bit about clubs, what's going on in the rugby clubs around the country. And as the lockdown progressed, I decided to start doing a history on rugby clubs, and I have done a synopsis history on some 240 odd rugby clubs all over Ireland. So last time I was on the show, I did a bit about Leinster. So now I would like to talk maybe a bit about my own club, Navan Rugby Club, which was established in actually 1924, November 1924, but officially it was actually 1925 when it was affiliated to the Leinster branch. It was founded up by a group of men, local men in Navan. William O'Sullivan, who happened to be the secretary of the local showgrounds. And then there was W.M. Kirk, who was the headmaster of a local Preston school, and Natalia Lacey, who was a solicitor. And then there was Matthew and Charlie Cringan, who were hoteliers. And then there was Joe Gibney and Bobby Byrne from or businessmen in the Navan area. I personally knew W.M. Kirk and Bobby Byrne because actually I was a pupil at W.M. Kirk, and before I went on to another school in Dublin. The local showgrounds was used as the club base, which is now the actually Park Tolton for the GA headquarters in Navan. But that was used up from 1925 up to 1941. And then the club won its first trophy, which was the Ryan Midland Trophy in 1929. And after that, it went through a fairly rough period, and especially during the World War. And actually, there was no rugby played between 1942 and 1946. Then they had no grounds, and you had the use of beach mounts and a couple of other fields in the Navan area that had a loan off from farmers, and they used to change and in Queen's Hotel for any home matches, etc. Then in the 1960s, coming up to 1960s, the club purchased some grounds at Balrisk on the Dublin Road for £660. It was about 4.5 acres at the time. And the clubhouse, the old clubhouse, was built in 1964 for approximately about £1,900. And they only had the clubhouse and the first pitch. But during the excavations, when they were doing the pitch, for that clubhouse and the pitch, they came across some tunnels and in the excavation, and they had to stop doing the excavation, and the Gardaí had to be informed, the county librarian and the National Museum, and they had to come down from Dublin to investigate what these passages were. Was it another Newgrange or something like that? But anyhow, the day they came down to inspect it, it lashed rain so much that actually the tunnels collapsed. And
Wow.
The tunnels collapsed, resulting in that there was nothing there really, because they couldn't do anything about it. So eventually that was all done away with. And then over the period of time, right up through the late 60s, etc., they added on further ground onto the club premises. The 60s actually was a very good year for the club in the sense that we won quite a few provincial towns cups and northeastern McGowan cups, and in fact Navan have actually won some 10 provincial towns cups and 17 McGowan's cups.
Is that a record, Gerald?
It's a pretty close to a record. I think there's one other club. I'm not too sure whether it's Carlow or something. I might have won, or Dundalk have won 12 cups of the provincial towns cups. But then moving on then into the 80s, youth rugby was started up at the club by former president and club trustee Brian Coyle, who also happened to be around at that time honorary secretary of the Leinster Branch Youth Committee. And Brian, along with another guy by the name of David O'Daly, they really got the youth section of the club really going in the 80s and into the 90s. And then in roughly around 1981, I think, or 82, there was floodlights were erected on the first pitch. And then going on further on then into the 90s, 98, 99, we had Australian John Mulvihill came to Navan. And you probably know John Mulvihill anyway from the Cardiff Blues.
Yes.
John Mulvihill, he came to Navan as a player coach. And actually Navan was his first coaching club in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't know whether he was doing any coaching in Australia before that.
Wow.
Prior to coming to Navan, John Mulvihill actually, he played for Australia as under 21, and he was Michael Lein's understudy on the Australian national team.
Wow.
So he if Leina wasn't there, Mulvihill could have been in that position. But anyhow,
like Warren Gatlin behind it. John Fitzpatrick.
So John then he stayed with us for about 4 or 5 years, and he actually got us up into the playoff for the All Ireland. Unfortunately, we just didn't quite make it. I think we were beaten by I think it was Monavea or was it? Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the other club. Not Clonakilty.
Clonakilty, yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, that was John Mulvihill. He stayed with us for quite a few years, and then he headed back to Australia, and then he went on. Then, as you probably know, he went on to Japan. He was in Japan for quite a number of years, and then he came on to Cardiff, and now he's just only gone back last month to Australia, as far as I know.
Yeah. Didn't end well at Cardiff, unfortunately.
Yeah. Then in 1999, the club then built a new clubhouse. During the late 60s into the 70s and 80s, there was more land was purchased by the club, and it was building up as of a land bank for about 20 acres nearly, as far as I can remember. And that came in useful when we eventually in 1999, the club did a deal with a builder, John Cusack, a sort of a barter deal, in exchange for giving some land to the builder to build houses. He built a clubhouse. It was a kind of
good bit of business, yeah.
A kind of a barter deal, right?
Excellent, yeah.
And, we were on, as you probably know, we were on a basement floor, a ground floor, and then a first floor. And that was in 1999, and that was opened by a former president of the IRFU, Bill Lavery. And then going into 2000, 2003, 2004, 5, the youth section of the club was very successful. We won the All Ireland under 16s in 2002, 2005, and 2009. And also the under 18s won the All Ireland in 2003. I happened to be I was the team manager of the under 18 side at the time, and we went through 24 games undefeated. I remember.
Made sure you dropped that one in that you were team manager.
It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The Invincibles.
Invincibles is right, and actually, quite a few of those guys on that side went on to play for the senior team. And when we eventually got into the AIL in 2010, there was about 6 or 7 of them, and actually one of them, Bernard Smith, was our captain there about up to 2 seasons ago in the Navan senior team of the AIL side. And going on then after that, we eventually got into the AIL in 2009-10, and we were Division 2C. We moving on at the same time, women's rugby was starting to take off in Navan. And we actually ended up around 2001, 2002. The Navan ladies at the time, they won actually the AIL at that time, what was the old Division 3 in 2003. And then they also won the League Division 2 in 2011. And a number of those girls actually went on to play for Leinster and Ireland. Probably heard Maz O'Reilly.
Yes.
She went on to a Belvedere eventually. She went on to a Belvedere. Then there was 2 other. There was a Sinead Ryan and Orla Brennan. Now Orla Brennan, she was Trevor Brennan's sister. She played for Navan, so she did.
Wow.
Okay.
And
no incidents with opposing fans.
No. It was quite calm. And then there was another girl, and Sinead Ryan. She played for Leinster, and actually Orla Brennan and Sinead Ryan, they actually played in the Women's World Cup in Canada, I think it was in 2006. And then there was another girl called Aoife Ryan, who was a sister of Sinead. She actually played for Leinster, and she married a club captain, Bernard Smith, a number of years ago. So she did. And Bernard actually, sorry.
No, go on, please go on.
No, Bernard Smith, who was the captain there for 3 seasons in a row, he actually played for Ireland at under 18 level. And Then in the roughly going up to the present year, the present time, the club at the when I remember in 2003 when we won the All Ireland, the Navan under 18 side were actually honoured by the Navan Town Council at a civic reception. The first time a team from the club or from any team from Navan Rugby Club was actually honoured by the local town council.
Wow.
Which was very wonderful, actually. And actually, I remember the day very clearly because Navan actually was twinning with another town from Italy, if I remember. And I think it was St. Gall was the name of the town in northern. It's up near the Alps, northern Italian Alps. And it was a twinning ceremony that took place at the same time. And we were at that civic reception as well. So we were, which was very nice. Very nice.
That sounded like a fantastic day out for everyone, and I tell you, it's brilliant. It's brilliant to hear about all the successful the pathway and going on from that to provincial and international, and the week that's in it, especially to hear about so many successful women doing that as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's that.
Gerald, I think you could write a book on your own alone.
I just want to say one thing was which was unique in the 2016 period to the 2019 period. We went up from Division 2C to 2B to 2A, and now we're actually in Division 1B. And also in 2017-18, Navan under 20s won the Fraser McMullen All-Ireland Cup. And in the process, they beat UCC, Lansdowne, Trinity, or they beat Trinity and then Lansdowne in the final. First time that a Leinster provincial club beat outside Dublin won the Fraser McMullen Cup, All-Ireland Cup. Not many clubs in Leinster can claim that outside Dublin.
That's quite an achievement. We'll have to ask you next time, Gerald, about them tunnels. Maybe Navan was under siege at the time. But,
well, we were just on the edge of the pale.
Thanks a million, Gerald. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thanks, Gerald.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's interesting he made the point there, he made the joke about the pale. I mean, in all seriousness, it was quite nice to see in the team announcement today. There's a few lads there, a few of the long lads. I think Tim Corkery's from Kilkenny, isn't he? O'Sean O'Brien's from Greystones. Obviously, it's easy to forget that Dave Carney's a Louth man originally, and obviously Tig's away with Ireland at the moment. So it's getting there.
Yeah, indeed. I actually from the match day 23 for tomorrow evening, Nathan, there's 8 of the 12 counties in Leinster are represented. So when people talk about it being a D4 team, they're really off the mark in the present time. It really is the Leinster Rugby are tapping into players and clubs from all over the province, and it's great to see.
And to be fair, they probably were a little bit slow in doing that. I think I saw a tweet from Rory O'Connor, the independent journalist there, who said something like, I think it was Corkery, and he talked about his Kilkenny background, and he said that's the furthest into the GAA heartlands that Leinster managed to get a player from, which is good news because, I mean, that's always been the problem, isn't it? Is the best athletes from from outside of Dublin tend to go off, and even in Dublin now with their recent success, the attraction there is to go and play for the GAA. And obviously, Rob Carney there was he's a proud Louth man, but it's getting there. Will Connors as well. He's from Kildare, so it's getting there in terms of representation. And
absolutely.
It is absolutely, and it's fantastic to see, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right, should we go on?
Yeah. What's next on the agenda? Are we bringing in our guests and discussing the Six Nations?
I think
Who have we got on tonight? We've you coming in there?
We're waiting for them to pop in. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Here's Debbie. Here's Luke and Brandon. And David's back with us.
Oh, he's changed. David's had a costume change.
Oh.
Not slipping that one by.
How are we doing, guys? You're all very welcome.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Should we go in chronological order? I think Wales Italy are first up on Saturday afternoon. If I'm wrong, someone tell me. So, Brandon, what are your thoughts going into that one? Still on for the Grand Slam? You're on mute, I think, Brandon.
Anyway,
there you go.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, me and Joe were fighting over the mute button there. I wasn't saying anything interesting anyway. Good evening, everyone. First of all, hope everyone is well, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, going for the Grand Slam, crazy to think of, and been very impressed with us so far. And really excited for this one against the Italians. Interesting to see not many changes from Pivac to the team. I thought he'd experiment a little bit more, but he clearly wants continuity. He clearly wants to keep the momentum going. And I think that centre partnership of North and Jonathan Davis is something he's very serious about moving forward. So I think it's a very strong team, and I'm very, very confident going into this one.
As you should be. I was looking back at the game there, and I forgot just how well Callum Sheedy did coming off the bench. And I looked during the week that he played underage for Ireland, and given the lack of depth we've got with Joey out at the moment, that absolutely sickened me. He's just taken what Pat Lam and the Bears are doing at the moment and just bringing all that. I don't want to say unstructured completely, because obviously it's international is different, but that willingness and that fearlessness, he's definitely bringing that with him, isn't he?
Yeah, he's done very well. There were calls to start him against the Italians, and I would have liked to have seen him start. I still think there's some areas of his game that he needs to work on. So for sure, Bigger is the starting 10. But the way that he came on against Scotland really impressed me. Him and Kieran Hardy, and many people who maybe would have seen me on my YouTube channel or other shows knew before going in, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kieran Hardy, but he's had a brilliant tournament as well. Unfortunately, he's out injured, but it's just great that we got so much depth and that these players are really stepping up when they're given the opportunity. So, yeah, very confident against Italy. Italy have only ever beaten us twice. Most recently, that was in 2007. And I haven't seen anything to suggest that they're going to beat us. But I do think they'll be competitive for parts of the game. I think Stephen Varney starting for them is big. I think he's really exciting youngster, actually born in Wales. So I don't know if we missed the trick there. But I think we'll just have too much for them.
Yeah, I certainly think you will do. I can't see anything bar a Wales win by 20 plus points. So moving on to the France versus England match, Le Crunch. How do you see that one going, Debbie?
I'm going to stick with my Six Nations champions being France. So I can't see England beating France at the weekend. They've made 3 changes, 2 of them reasonably pointless, I would say. Luke Cowan-Dickie and Charlie Ewens. Max Malins should have been before now for me to go in at fullback. But I'm a little bit worried that we're handing him a bit of a poison chalice to put him in against that French team. He is an exceptionally good rugby player, but I just worry that we could be setting him up a little bit there. A win for France for me. Sorry, England fans.
Do you see any difference in the way England might approach this game compared to the first couple of matches?
Well, hey, let's hope we can get under double figures in penalties. That'll be a start, won't it?
Yeah, the discipline certainly has to improve.
Yeah.
Luke, what are your thoughts on this one? Are you happy with the French side picked, or did you expect certain players to come back in?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the French selection. It's exciting to see Ntamack back in on the bench. Obviously, Jalibert's been playing very well. And Vakatawa as well. I'm really excited to see Vakatawa back in the squad and starting. But I'd love to see Ntamack come off the bench and play in the centre and see Dupont, Jalibert and Ntamack all on the pitch at the same time. Yeah,
that's quite a proposition, and it's some bench to have in a match of this big, maybe against the tiring English defence later on. Sorry,
that's just not fair. If you finish the game with Dupont, Jalibert, Ntamack, and Vakatawa as your 9, 10, 12, 13, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if Vakatawa has it's incredible. that was something I was going to ask. I'll ask both of you about this because you'll both be able to give your perspective, Luke and Debs. I looked at this and I saw, Fiku and Vakatawa in the midfield. They're going up against Farrell and Slade, two good defenders by all accounts, but I mean, one's an out half and the other one's definitely more renowned for his ball playing than his defensive work. Debbie, is that a concern, that midfield channel for you, that those matchups there?
Yeah, I think it has. We've got Ollie Lawrence on the bench, haven't we? But Ollie Lawrence has had, one touch of the ball and the whole Six Nations. Yeah, I think that remains a concern. And then you've got poor Max behind them if the centres go straight through them. Yeah, it's a worry.
It's an interesting one. And also, I mean, poor old Max might be in for a bit of a long day under the high ball because we all know that inside their own half, France like to kick a lot. I think they've kicked more than anyone else this tournament. But on that note, Luke, with a little bit more running potentially and Vakatawa playing, do you see France kicking maybe slightly less and backing themselves more from their own half, or do you think they'll just use him when they can, but the game plan won't change?
I think France prefer to play with the backs. So I think, I don't think they'll look to play with the forwards. But yeah, be interesting to see what they do with the ball if they kick it. They may aim to the fullback who's not very experienced and put him under pressure. And Penno also starting along Teddy Thomas. They're all good under the high ball. So you've got 3 players on the pitch for France who are very good under the high ball. So it could be potential there. I honestly think as well. I think England are due a big game. On paper, England is still a very good squad. They've been massively underperforming, and I think they'd be revved up for this game. I honestly think that England could do it still. Truly, I'm excited with the French lineup. I think it's probably the strongest squad that they've put together for a match with the players that have come back from injury. Shat as well on the bench, but I think England are due a big game, and I think they've got a point to prove with losing to France last year in the Six Nations, then struggling with like a B/C team for the autumn internationals. I think they're really going to give it to France.
I think the motivation will certainly be there. All right, and they normally up their game for when they're playing France. I'm not sure that they'll necessarily get a performance or the cohesion they're looking for, though. I've seen it where any team really when they get in that slump and a certain amount of it is the opposition being able to cope with your style of play, and maybe your lineup is a bit tired sometimes and needs a few changes. So I'm not sure. What do you think, Debbie? Do you think there's changes needed in that England side before we see improvement, or do you just think it was a few teething problems in this tournament that are going to sort themselves out on this weekend?
No,
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Debs.
I think changes are needed, but we know that they're not going to happen in this tournament. He had his 28 players. I think that's been a problem for England. He had those 28 players and could only swap out if there are injuries. That's proven to be a problem. And I can't think who I heard say a friend of mine wrote an article. They're playing with some anger, and they can't be playing with anger because that soon turns to desperation. That soon turns to 14 penalties. If they give double figures in penalties away, you're not going to win that game. You're really not, against France particularly.
You guarantee that France, whoever they play, they're going to score 2 or 3 tries. Even if they lose, they're always going to score tries. Yeah, they're going to score tries, and now your defence is so well organised and well
if they can
drilled
sort the
discipline out, and not France give away a lot of penalties as well. Don't forget, Debbie. So if France, I think France scored 2 or 3 tries, but France's Achilles heel was their discipline as well.
Sounds like everyone's agreeing that discipline discipline, and whoever keeps the most disciplined is going to go a long way to determining this one. We'll come back a little bit towards the end. We'll get your score predictions towards the end, but I'm conscious we got to talk. To Dave's gone to the trouble of changing his jersey, so we should give him his chance to give us his preview of the Scotland game this weekend. How do you see this one going, Dave?
You know what? I'm actually quite nervous actually about this one. For Scotland have been playing very well this Six Nations, and we have Stockdale come back into the squad, and which is great to see. I don't see I'm not going to see very many changes in Farrell's lineup against Scotland. I think they're going to have to try and counter the open play that Scotland have been running out in this tournament. And to be fair, I'm almost thinking if Ireland don't get the first 15 minutes sorted and don't give away too many penalties, I could see Scotland run this one by at least 7. But if Ireland keep it tight in the first 10-15 minutes, then I could see it a lot tighter than it should be. I still think in the end we may get lucky with it and we may scrape it by 3, but if not, if we don't get that first 15 minutes sorted out, I can see Scotland winning by quite a few.
David, we've had incredible success against Scotland over the last 20 years. I think we're 17 from 21 in Six Nations matches, 21 from 27 in all competitions, and even the last few years when we haven't quite been at our best, we've won the last five on the bounce. I think a lot of that has been down to our forward domination over Scotland. We've managed to get the better of them at set piece, and even the much lamented Schmidt ball, keeping it very, very tight, seemed to be more effective against Scotland than any other nation. Can you see us continue with this tactic, and do you still think it'd be effective, or Scotland in a better position now to cope?
I think actually, and I actually think Scotland are actually not only are in a much better position to cope, I think that they're actually going to be in a much better position to counter the Schmidt ball. Scotland have amazed me in terms of their open play. Certainly compared to say in the last 2 years, I've seen it's almost like a huge turnaround. I've never seen a turnaround like it, except for the French, and it's for me, it's unless Farrell gets that word through about consistency, about keeping good discipline, but even trying to get that open play between Henshaw and Ringrose, I think I don't know. I think this is the one time where we could definitely say Scotland are going to be a bogey team. And I think Scotland have the tools to beat us. And it's not for me to downplay Ireland's chances here. I think if Ireland play to certain strengths, yes, they will beat Scotland and will keep the run going. But I think Scotland have the best chance of beating us for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sorry,
go
Conor.
ahead, Nathan. Sorry. Go ahead, mate.
I was just saying that's a great point, and I think the other thing to remember is that the weather forecast isn't good for Edinburgh, is it? So, I think we were probably going to look to keep the game tight anyway, but I think that kind of dictates that we definitely will now. Although I also don't fancy the idea of us kicking all day to Stuart Hogg. Something about that doesn't necessarily seem like it's going to be a good idea.
All their back three are dangerous. With a loose ball,
yeah.
Darcy, Graham, Vandermeer, whoever they have back there.
Exactly. Even Redpath was a elevation. Yeah.
Well, is he fit?
Yeah.
Is he fit?
Doubtful, I think.
Does anyone know for sure?
Have to wait and see.
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't heard that rule out. Sure, I asked a couple of Scottish lads during the week and they weren't sure. So we'll see tomorrow, I guess.
Right. Quickly before we get to giving you everyone our predictions, I'd love to hear from each one of you quickly. Briefly, what is your takeaway from what have you learned about your side, your country's side during the Six Nations so far? I mean, it feels like the Six Nations has been going on forever with the 2 fallow weekends, but it's tough to remember. There's still 2 games to go. There's still nearly half the tournament left. I'll start with you, Brandon. I'm aware we haven't given you much of a chance tonight. You've fallen into the trap of your team plays Italy, so not a lot of people. So because the result is a foregone conclusion. But what have you learned about this Wales side so far this tournament?
I think we can win without playing beautiful rugby. I think Pivac, when he came in, of course, when was it? 18 months ago, however long it was now, he came in and tried to just play too much rugby. I remember that game against you guys in the Aviva, and Stockdale had half the pitch to play with at one point. And I was thinking, where's our defence gone? And we're trying to play without earning the right to play. But fortunately now, I think Pivac has understood that we need to slowly build what he wants to do. We can't straight away go and play. And I think that's what he's really clicked onto. And now we're beginning to see the fruits of that. And then the second thing is the depth that we've got. We've got such good depth now. And every player, I mean, you look at our back row, I think our back row is world class. And then you've got players off the bench such as Wainwright who can come in. Then you look at scrum half, Kieran Hardy, those out injured, isn't going to be playing, but that is a really good battle between him and Thomas Williams. Sheedy at 10, and then players, who aren't even going to get on the pitch. Willis Halaholo's played really well, and he's not even getting on the pitch. So I think we're in a good spot. France will be a massive test. It'll be interesting to see how they go this weekend. But yeah, I'm really happy with how we've been doing.
Great. Speaking of France, Luke, where do you see France at the moment, and how do you see them progressing between?
France have obviously played one less game than a couple of the other teams because of the delay with the Scotland game. But I think France have proven now that they've always had this reputation for the last God knows how long of you never know which team are going to show up. But I think it's safe to say now that France, they've got rid of that reputation. You can pretty much guarantee that a good French team is going to show up. They've been playing consistently now for 2 years, so I think they've earned the right to be respected now as a good country with playing decent rugby. And same as what Brandon said, they've got such depth to their squad. Look at the autumn international final when none of the starting 15 turned up, and they took a first team England selection to extra time. They've got pretty much every position. They've got 3 world-class players that can fill in with fullback, scrum halves, fly halves. Yeah, literally every single position. Yeah, it's good. It's exciting at the minute. The future looks really good for France, and it's been disappointing 10 years before last year, and it's really nice to be able to have something to support and cheer about.
It is, yeah. So depth, and discipline and consistency.
Yeah,
that sums up France up pretty.
Cut the elbow out, stop the punching. keep 15 players on the pitch. Hopefully for Scotland and Wales. Hopefully for Wales it'll be 15 versus 15, and we can beat them.
You think one of the matches has to be 15?
Yeah, I'm joking.
Maybe one of your guys, Luke.
Yeah.
Debbie, discipline, has that been England's downfall this year, or is there any other issues you'd like to talk about in the English camp?
Without a doubt, I've got to get this in between sneezes, and as I've got to talk about England rather than France, I'm not going to be long. Positives, I think Tom Curry is a positive for England in this Six Nations. Struggling to find many other positives. Sorry, England. We have some fantastic players out in the Premiership. We had one, Paolo Odogwu, is going to have had 6 weeks with no rugby to his name, which is criminal, really. He's going to go back to Wasps in the same position the Saracens players were in when they went into this England camp. And poor Harry Randall got injured. I just think it's sad that we as England fans, we want to talk about the players that aren't there more than the players that are there. disappointing all round.
You've kind of been hamstrung, haven't you, with the COVID restrictions and how it's affected your numbers in the camp and bringing new players in.
Yeah, but he knew that before we started, didn't he? He had.
Yeah.
Someone, I can't think what somebody said, but you know, Eddie Jones goes and watches nearly every Premiership game. Someone said, why doesn't he stay at home and bake cakes? Because he doesn't do anything with what he's watching. You know, he's got to do something for the summer and change this team around.
Absolutely. David.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Debbie. David, how have Ireland been hamstrung? Is it COVID restrictions or the coach and tactics, or what do you make of it?
I actually think, for me, actually a positive is a bit of consistency actually in the squad, and that's saying something considering all the chat that we've had about Farrell and what, if any, tactics he's employing at the minute. You know, it's very much going to be a case of evolution rather than revolution. We have great players coming through. You know, Casey, for example, he's been astounding. I think he's going to be a good player in green, you know, for years to come. You know, it's nice to see O'Mahony, Earls, and Sexton signing those 1-year deals. You know, to carry on. I see that now as a sort of a transition. I think it's time now for Andy Farrell to look to experiment a wee bit now as we go forward into the second half of the cycle. And I actually think, you know, we're in a good place, but we're in a good place from a point of view of we're in transition, and I think we need to realise that maybe for another year we're not going to see the full results of what it should be. But I think by the time we get to the World Cup, I think we should be ready for a bit of battle.
Absolutely brilliant. Right, well, finish off. Quick predictions. Go one by one. Who's going to win your country's match and by how many? So we'll go one by one, chronological order again. Brandon, Wales by how many?
I'm going to say Wales by 25-30. I think, I think we'll wrap up with the bonus point by about 60 minutes, and we'll see some changes. So Wales to win by 20 to 30 points easily.
Debs, you sound like you're predicting an English loss.
Yeah, I'm going to go. And this is negative when it comes to England. France by 10 for me, and hopefully we see some entertaining rugby from both teams.
I think we definitely will. Both sides. England definitely looked to run it against Wales last week, and we know what France can do. Luke, do you have anything different to say?
I actually think that England are going to show up, and it's going to be a battle, and I'm going to say England by 3. Believe it or not, I hope I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. But I still think France will win the Six Nations.
Huge shout! Did not expect that from the Frenchman. You. Hang on. What did put Yannick's predictions back up there, Joe, for a second? I didn't get to see that. France by 10. So Yannick's definitely disagreeing with you there. All right, Dave. Dave, you send the
I think if Ireland get a wriggle on in the first 15 minutes, I think Ireland will win by 3. If not, it'll be Scotland by 6.
I agree. Ireland aren't set up as a side yet to chase games very well, and that's been a problem for a while. Conor, anything different there?
Yeah, I'm actually optimistic about Ireland's chances of beating Scotland. I think we have the game plan to take it to them. I think our forwards are playing very well. I think they're improving with every match. I think we might get some change out of them at the line out and the scrum, and attack them around the 10-12 channel, and I think we might get some profit there. I think we won't with Sexton and Murray probably coming back in. We won't be kicking loose ball to them that they can run back at a sider. So I'm actually optimistic about an Ireland win. I think obviously if Scotland bring the same energy and intensity they brought in the England match, it'll be very difficult and they'll present a major challenge. But it's hard to bring that level of emotion to every match. I think all things being equal, we can beat them, and we will beat them by between 1 and 7 points.
Fair enough. I think Gerald's coming back in. He's going to give us some.
Hey, Gerald.
As well. Gerald, quickly
Hi,
go game by game. Who's going to win each game?
Ireland will win in Scotland. France and Wales.
Fair enough. You heard it here.
Yep.
Gerald has spoken. Ian Gilbert, Wales by 20 plus, France by 6, and Ireland by 9. I don't think Ireland win by a point, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think I agree with that, to be honest. I think with those three, I think Scotland fronting up against England was surprising, but I think I agree. I share your skepticism whether they can do that again. But if they do, I think we might be in trouble because they definitely can create more outside than we can. Right, I think that's about it. Thanks everyone for joining us. Always these things always run long because I don't know how to shut up. I always love talking to people about rugby. So thank you all for joining. This has been really enjoyable. Conor, thanks as always. Gent, as always.
Thanks, guys.
What's on our list?
Been a pleasure.
What's on our list? Thanks to everyone for representing their country. Gerald, as always, fascinating chat about the history of the Leinster branch Navan this time round. Thank you for joining us, our viewers, of course, as ever. And make sure that you join us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's ThreeBOD Rugby Group for all of our live content and content from our selected partners. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers.